Hello everybody. Welcome to the second lecture on genetic algorithms. As we remember, from the last time we discussed the how genetic algorithms they came to be used as function optimizers or as an optimization technique. What are the basic operators of genetic algorithm and what is a simple genetic algorithm? Okay. So let's just get started again with a brief revision of what are the characteristics of genetic algorithm, and then we'll go on to what is encoding strategies in genetic algorithms and what are the different types of crossover operations in genetic algorithms. So let's get started with that. So when I talk about characteristics, genetic algorithms, they are robust. When I say robust, that is if there is a change in the inputs also, still my algorithm it is able to achieve its good solution. Okay, and next it is adaptive heuristic search algorithm. When I say heuristic, it means it is not guided by a determined flow, but it is having the capability to work in the environment which is random or stochastic in nature and still give me a good solution. And the best part of genetic algorithm is though it does not always guarantee to give me the optimal solution, but at any stage of time, after 10 iterations, after 100 iterations, after 500 iterations, if not optimum, it will always give me some good solution for my problem. And this is applicable to the wide range of problems to which my genetic algorithms has been applied over the time. Next, it allows the parallel search of the potential solutions. As I explained in the last, because since you are taking members of the population as the alternative or the possible solutions, which may be from the different points in your search space. So, and all of them they are actually getting evaluated for how good they are or whether they are the potential solution or not. So that allows the parallel search of the good solution in my entire search space, which makes them quite effective. And they can be applicable to NP-hard problems as the traveling salesman problem. So they are able to be applied to any problem, any random stochastic problem which is there, which are classified as NP-hard, and hence they are able to solve quite complex problems which occur in the real world. So with this understanding on genetic algorithms, let's start how do we actually apply our GA to any problem. Okay. So with that, we first come to encoding. Now, I told you that whenever we are going to apply genetic algorithm, we need to have encode our solutions as chromosomes, which will constitute the members of my population. Okay. Now, how to form this chromosome and what typically a chromosome looks like? Okay. So there are different encoding and different ways of encoding the information. That could be binary, octal, hexadecimal value, or the real encoding, pre-encoding, or a sequence or a sequential or a permutation encoding. Let's start with them one by one. First, talking about the binary encoding mechanism. So the first type of coding, which is very commonly used for genetic algorithms and was originally used by Professor Holland, is the binary encoding. In case of the binary encoding, what you do is your chromosomes, they are nothing but they are strings of ones and zeros. So let's say if I have n population size of n and I have a chromosome of 8 bits, so it means I can actually divide my chromosome into 8 different elements or 8 genes. So let's say my first chromosome is some permutation combination of zeros and ones, which is given as so this is the combination of the 8 bits. Okay, so this is my one chromosome. Similarly, with this 8 bits or the 8 genes comprising my chromosome, I can have different number of combinations to represent the different members of my population. Okay, so binary encoding, it gives me the advantage that it is very simple. It helps, it is a simple way of encoding my problem, and even with a small number of alleles or genes, I'm able to have a large size of my population. But the only limitation which is there is, since in the real world around us, we don't have all the things which can be easily represented in 0 and 1. So that puts a limitation on that. Okay, so that is the only problem. I will just try to take a small example. I'll just continue with the example of the VLSI partitioning uh, for which I want to, let's say, of the chromosome. Let's say I want to partition my circuit into two halves. Okay, and I represent one by 0, another by 1, and I have 32 components in my circuit. I can form a chromosome with 32 elements or 32 genes or 32 alleles. Okay, so let us say this is first and this is by 32nd or 32 bit. So I can simply form a chromosome. Let's say that the first element, it is going to the partition 1. My second element, or the second circuit element, it is going to the partition classified 0, unidentified with 0. Let the third element also go to partition with the identification 0. So I can easily relate my problem to 0 and 1. So any bi-classification problem or a bi-partition problem, that can be easily represented using a binary coded chromosome. So, and the highest value I can represent is of all ones. Okay. In general, my decoded value, that can be represented as summation from k varying from 0 to n minus 1. Okay. So this represents my decoded value, which is encoded by this particular chromosome, where n is nothing but length of the string. Okay, so this is by decoded value. So it is easiest or the simplest form of encoding and can be easily used. It gives me lot many flexibility on the number of combinations which are possible, but it suffers from one limitation, that all the real world problems, they will not be easily represented using by binary encoding. The next type of encoding scheme which is used or which may be used is your octal. Okay, so in case of octal encoding, it is very similar to what we have done in the binary encoding scheme, but with the difference that in case of octal, we are using the powers of 8. Okay, so we are using the values 0 to 7 for forming of any chromosome. There is no restriction on the length of the chromosome. So let's say if I have a 8 element chromosome formed in this case, so that will be nothing but, so I can easily divide my chromosome into 8 elements. Each of these elements is known as your allele or a gene. So if it is an 8 element this, so I can have any value, let's say 4, 4, 2, 1, 0, 7, 6, 3. So this is going to represent my one chromosome. Similarly, I can have another combination of these elements where each of the element can take any value varying between 0 to 7. So 8 and 9, they are not going to find place in this. So what is the limit I can have is the limit with which I can represent this string is the minimum value is going to be all zeros, and the maximum value which I can represent is the maximum or the highest digit at all places, that is all sevens. So this is what is the range I can represent, and my decoded value in this case is nothing but it is represented as a summation varying between 0 to n minus 1. So it is a power of 8, the decoded value, into the string which we are considering to be represented. Okay. So this is about the octal encoding. On the similar lines, I have my hexadecimal encoding. So for my hexadecimal encoding, what is my range? It is going to be 0 to 9, and then I have A to F. So I have 16 values which can be represented. So my string can be, let's say in this case, my 8-bit string would be what value? So in this case, my 8-bit string would be, or it can be represented as one possible value. I'm just going to take, so I'm just going to divide my chromosome into 8 elements or 8 alleles, and that can represent 1, or it can be A, E, so this is one type of chromosome which can be represented using your hexadecimal encoding. So the value which is decoded, that can be represented as nothing but the similar lines. K is going to vary from 0 to n minus 1. Let the string be sk. So what value I am going to change from this? Only the base to which my kth power is raised. So that is going to represent by decoded value which is there. So this was all about the basic. So they are nothing but based on our number systems if you pay attention. So they are just based on our number systems. So the maximum and the minimum value in this case would be all zeros to FFF, all Fs. Okay. So next we come to is your permutation encoding or your sequence encoding. So this is just where your sequence of integers, it may be used, or whole numbers may be used. So I have my sequence encoding in this case. So here my chromosome, that can be represented as a sequence. Let's say I have a sequence of values or my numbers. Okay, whole numbers. So normally this is made used in the ordering problems such as let's say to find the shortest path, or let's say to in case of the traveling salesman problem, which is a very typical problem which is being solved with the genetic algorithms. So I can identify each city with a number, and the cities and the order in which the cities have to be covered. So that can be represented as the solution. So first solution can say that I go to city 1, then to city 3, then 4, 6, 7, 2 and 9. Okay, similarly, I can have another combination of this. So the number of elements would be the number of cities I am going to identify in the, let's say for a given example of traveling salesman problem. Okay, next we come to is value encoding. In case of value encoding, what we use is we make use of real numbers or the real values for that. Okay, so my chromosome it is nothing but a string of sub values that can be connected to the problem. So when my real numbers they are used to characterize the solutions to my problem. Let's say I have an equation to be solved whereby A and B can be real values. So I can take my chromosome, since there are two elements only, I'm going to take two elements. So I have two possible elements in which, let's say I have A as the value of 0.5, just an example, it may be different values also, and B is having the problem of value of 4. So that will be one possible value. Okay, so it may be very suitable for certain problems because it is going to encode the real values. Okay, but it may require your genetic operators which are specific to your problem, because let's say if there is a crossover, so crossover in this case it is very difficult to apply, but if we take the binary encoding, it is very easy to apply my crossover operation. That also we will see eventually. So let's say if I want to optimize the weights of a neural network, in that case what do I need? Weights can be any negative, positive, real values. So in that case I can use this value encoding. Now we come to the last type of the encoding scheme, which is called my tree encoding. So tree encoding, if you understand what is tree, binary tree, it is typically a type of, you can see a data structure which is used so many places. You must have used, you must have heard about it. So, so let's say I have a sequence or a binary tree which is representing my chromosome. So this is nothing but that can be symbols, that can be any identifiers. I take it to be identifiers. So if you remember, I don't know how many of you have done floor planning. So there we form the Polish equation. So there, if I'm going to uh, form the floor plan, I make use of such kind of structures. So there I can use these identifiers. So let's say I have this binary tree structure which is of this form. It as, so my chromosome can be represented as A, B, C, D and E. So that is my tree encoding. So it is a kind of data structure. I may have further any branch which may be coming out of E, which may be used further. So number of branches of the tree, they are going to decide the length of my chromosome. And my different chromosomes, they can be just formed by changing the order of these elements which are identifying by chromosome elements. Okay, so I hope we are actually clear on what kind of different encoding schemes can be used. In case of tree encoding, I can even use something like, let's say, start, stop, some sequence, some symbols, anything. So any symbols also can be used there. So the different encoding schemes, they are going to allow me to use the different type of chromosomes to be formed as per my problem, but at the same time we have to remember that I have to choose a coding scheme which makes the application of my operations, genetic operations, easier. I don't have to complicate that. I cannot always make use of all the operations very easily in all the coding schemes. Say if I have this tree encoding ABCD. Okay, so I have a chromosome. It means by different chromosomes can be formed by different combinations of this. Another chromosome can be of the form BCDE. Another can be of the form CBAED. So different combinations, but my restriction is that only once every element is going to occur. So let's say I have another chromosome which is represented as BE, E, C, and T. So all the elements, they are having their value occurring only once, and it's a different combination. Now let's say what is crossover. Let's say I choose my crossover point to be my second after the second element, that is. So let's say I break and I want to exchange the parts so that I get a new solution or a new offspring. So what I do is I try to exchange the parts between the two. First thing I have to remember, my element length, that should be remaining same. Okay, so it means I can just exchange this with this in one offspring and this part with this in the other offspring. So let's say my one offspring which is going to be formed is A, B, A, C, D, and my next offspring, it is going to be B, E, C, D, E. So though I could perform the operation of crossover very easily, and this encoding scheme, it seemed to be very simple. But you remember I had a restriction that my every element, that should be having a unique value. That should not be repeated. So if I see my these two offsprings, in the offspring 1, my A is occurring twice and my E is missing. Whereas in the offspring 2, my E is occurring twice whereas A is missing. So this is violating the condition what I require. So this means though this encoding scheme that will directly fall in place with my elements which are there for my problem, but then I will have to take care that my crossover operation is either modified or I change my encoding scheme such that I can directly apply my crossover. So different encoding schemes are possible, but I have to see the suitability of that, not only in the terms of how well they are going to capture the values of my problem, but also how easily I can apply my genetic operations. So this was all about your encoding schemes. In the next lecture, we are going to study the different type of crossovers which are there. You already had a gist of what crossover is and you understand that. But let's say what are the different types of crossover operations which are possible. We are going to study in detail about that. Thank you so much, and we'll meet in the next lecture. Thank you so much.